Hey there, everybody. Bob Beatty Barra here, and welcome to episode 4 of the My Friends Are Amazing podcast. One thing I keep forgetting to do with this podcast is to ask people to actually subscribe. Did you know that you can find episodes of this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio? When you go to your podcast subscription center of choice, just do a search for My Friends Are Amazing, and please give me a subscribe. So this week in podcast news, I basically need to issue an apology. Wow, this is 2 apologies in a row. Actually, this week I'm just apologizing for not recording episode 4 last week when I was in London for the Umbraco UK festival. Bottom line, I was having way too much fun to stop the wonderful natural conversations I was having to spin up the old podcast machine. I did, however, get a chance to ask many of my friends to be future guests on the show, and I got to ask them in person, so that's great news. Here's some of the not so great news. It appears that I'm coming down with a little bit of a cold this week, no doubt from the fun that I had in the UK last week. So I guess another apologies up front for coughing or throat clearing that you may hear on this week's episode. I just wanted to remind everyone also that in addition to subscribers, I'm looking for additional sponsors of the podcast. Our listenership is going up every week, and if you want to help me defray the costs of hosting and recording software and hardware, give me a shout on Twitter at BootNumlock, or shoot me an email at bob@baty-barr.com, bob@batybar.com. And you can also find all the episodes on the website at batybar.com as well. Today, the podcast is brought to you by Social Imposter, reputation management for social networking profiles. I can already hear what everyone's saying out there. But Bob, what the heck does that even mean? Well, let me tell you what Social Imposter is. Social Imposter is actually a customized service utilizing proprietary technology that finds and mitigates removal of fake social network pages on behalf of high-profile brands, actors, athletes, models, musicians, politicians, military officers, business people, members of the clergy, and their management teams. Basically, if you have a page that's out there in the public eye, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, any of the social media outlets, and there might be other people impersonating your person or your brand, Social Imposter is the crew you need to hire. So a huge thanks to Social Imposter for being my first and only podcast sponsor at this point, and be sure to check them out at socialimposter.com. This week's guest is Kevin Giszewski. He's a computer nerd living in the quiet life as a husband and a father in Midwest America. He enjoys long walks off short piers when things go incredibly wrong while coding. When not over-engineering code, Kevin enjoys making short videos on YouTube, American sports, and binge-watching streamed content. Kevin occasionally skips deployment Fridays and spoils his kids with roller skating night. Actually, we're recording the podcast a little late this evening because Kevin is out roller skating with his children right now. So just to give you a little background, Kevin and I met a few years back through our mutual involvement with the Umbraco CMS. Actually, quite a few of the guests you're going to hear on the show over the weeks, I've met through that wonderful thing called Umbraco as well. Kevin is a super badass developer, but when I met him, I quickly learned that he is also a super badass in a lot of other things, like being a dad. He's also super creative outside of his coding life, and he's done tons of other super cool stuff. Some we can talk about, some we can't. So probably it's best for me to just shut up and introduce another one of my amazing friends, Kevin Giszewski. Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Doing okay, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So I think you guys just got back from roller skating night tonight. Is that right?
Yes, roller skating night in the metropolis known as Columbia City, Indiana.
All right, so that was one of my questions. So the roller rink is right in Columbia City?
Yeah, I've lived here 8 years, and I only discovered it about 18 months ago. The wife was holding that on me.
So how big? Is it a big rink? Is there a lot of fun stuff to do, or is it just an oval where everyone skates?
It's an oval where everyone skates, and all my kids love going there. It's like the hangout, and it's my chance to channel my inner 6th grader.
So inline skates or for like 2 and 2?
Oh, it's the quad skate, old school, the kind that look pretty dorky. I used to play inline skate hockey outdoors back in the day, but no longer.
But you don't. So you don't take your inlines. You actually use the rink skates.
Yeah, exactly. I use the nasty old ones where they probably have things growing in them.
Stoppers on the front.
It's a grab bag. Depends on what the gentleman behind the counter hands you.
So the ones without the stoppers on the front are like speed skates, right?
If so, news to me. I'm really not an expert in the sport of roller skating, but it is very enjoyable. You wouldn't think so in 2017, but roller skating is still a thing.
So do they play modern music or do they play old school like 80s roller rink?
When you pass through the front door, it's a portal into 1987, and suddenly everything is AC/DC, big hairband, old school roller skates. It's quite amazing.
So it is the old school music. They don't play any of the modern hits.
No modern hits. It's interesting because when you walk in the door, they've got like handwritten notes everywhere, very serial killer style. You can't wear a hat, girls no midriffs. I mean, it's just like all these rules, and it's very old school.
Do they do the standard hokey pokey every night and any like
hokey
traditional
pokey, chicken dance, and the limbo?
Very cool. And did the kids participate or just you?
I do hokey pokey and chicken dance. The limbo, at my age, I defer to the talented young folk in the arena.
The flexible youth.
Exactly.
So do you guys do any other like fun family night stuff or any other traditions?
We do in the fall, which I guess technically we're still here. We do outdoor movie night. So I take a projector, a Blu-ray player, or an Apple TV and project on the side of a detached garage, which is painted white, and little tiny fire pit, and we cook outside, and that's known as family movie night. Sometimes the kids will drive their little Power Wheels cars and do like a drive-in style, but that's definitely a Giszewski family tradition we do.
Oh, Giszewski, that's a really good call because I think I butchered you in the intro too. So
you won't be the first or the last.
All right, say it for me one more time.
Giszewski.
Oh, so it's a hard G even.
Yeah, it's not like a GIF. It's a GIF. So it's Giszewski.
I'm going to work hard at that because I know I butcher that pretty badly.
That's okay, Bob. I know where you live if you get it wrong.
Well, I get it wrong. I get it wrong a lot. So, all right. So we got drive up movie night, and is that like a whole neighborhood thing, or do you guys just do it?
Sometimes the next door neighbors, similar aged youngsters, but otherwise, no. We have enough kids in the family for an infield baseball team.
Nice. Now, I hear you talk about where you live, and you often, I think, overplay the ruralness of it all. So right. How close are your neighbors? Like, I mean, do you actually live in a neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. So we're a metropolis of 8,000 strong. The neighbors are probably 30 feet on each side of the property line. I live in town, so I can see the courthouse and the mail post office is walking distance. So a bit overplayed. I don't live out in the country, but as soon as you leave the city limits, make sure you got a full tank of gas type stuff.
The city limits of Columbia City?
Yeah, we're only about 6 square miles of housing, and then it's 20 minutes to the nearest big town. I guess there's a couple of little towns for gas station. Yes, I do overplay it a little bit. But, for instance, traveling to England takes quite a while on both the out and the return.
All right, so that's actually pretty funny and pretty timely. So for those of you listening, Kevin and I just got back from a trip to the UK for a festival, an Umbraco festival, but you had a very lengthy journey home, if I recall. So
yes.
So how did that go?
Well, we set the alarm. We woke up at the crack of, actually way before dawn in London, got that Uber ride, flew to Dublin, where I had a little bit of a layover. Flew to Chicago, which was, I don't know, however many hours that is. Then I had to catch a bus to somewhere in Indiana where I left my car on the way there, and had to drive another 2 hours home. So there was plenty of traffic, plenty of the buses. I had to change buses once, and so yeah, I think if I did my math right and I adjusted for time zones and stuff, it was right at a 24-hour return, which left me pretty exhausted. So I just missed the kids going to bed by about an hour, hour and a half. So they didn't get to see me until the morning. But yeah, it's an event. So whenever somebody asks me to come to Denmark or to England or Poland or wherever, somewhere in Europe, even sometimes out west, it's a bit of a journey for me because I've got to do the travel website thing where, okay, is it worth my time or money and all this stuff. So yeah, traveling, I love to travel, but it's a bit of a chore.
So if you do like domestic travel, would you typically fly out of Indy, or can you get flights out of Fort Wayne?
We can get flights out of Fort Wayne, but there's the convenience tax, I like to call it. So if you want to fly local, it's about a 30-minute drive to the airport, and it's about a $300 convenience tax. So, and then on top of that, if I connect in Chicago, there's a better than 75% chance I'll either miss my connection or my bag will miss the connection, because the way they, stack flights, a lot of times I'll get into Chicago and we'll just sit on the tarmac for 20 minutes waiting for a gate, because we're the little tiny plane and all the big planes get priority, it seems. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll either consider Indianapolis, go to Chicago, or even Detroit. So I'm really like triangulated between three major cities, but they're 2 to 3 hour drives for each one.
How far is to Detroit?
It's about 3 hours. It's same distance for me to get to Detroit than it is to Chicago.
I guess that's a good point, because you are relatively close to the Indiana-Ohio border.
Yes, relatively. Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, we woke up. I think I figured this out. So we woke up at 3ish a.m. London time, which was like 10 o'clock p.m. the prior day at home. And I think I rolled in, I guess I got home a little after 5 p.m. So yeah, so your day was a little bit longer than mine.
Yeah, because I didn't get in the door till 10 o'clock Eastern, which would have been 9 o'clock Central. So yeah, we'd left same time, but you beat me by 4 hours. Most of that though is I live at least 3 hours on a good day drive from Chicago. So
in retrospect, would you say worth it, all that craziness on the way home?
it is absolutely worth it. However, I do pace myself. So there's a better chance than not that I won't be at Code Garden. Need to, kind of make sure I don't neglect the kids and the wife. We're going to Disney World in February. So, just managing stuff like that. So it's not a snub if I don't go anywhere. It's usually because I want to keep the kids and the wife happy.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one out too. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to swing it with my company to do both. So I might have to bow out of Code Garden as well this year, even though I don't want to.
Will that be your first time?
It would be my first time in a very, very long time. And actually, you know what? It might be the first time. I mean, once I didn't go to the very first one. But yeah, I think I'm like on a 10 or 11 years straight or something crazy like that.
That's a good streak right there.
It is, and that makes it really hard to consider maybe not going. But I was super glad to check off the UK festival. That was definitely something I wanted to do for years.
Yeah, absolutely. England and the UK has always been a place I'd love to go, and gotta say, it rates very high on my best places I've ever been. So, yeah,
I was really digging the Huddersfield, kind of the off the beaten path, outside of London type experience. I really like that a lot.
Same here.
So, all right. So when we were over there, we filmed a little video that went live today. Was that today?
It was yesterday.
No, that was yesterday. So the video went live yesterday. So let's talk a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Kevin has a YouTube channel.
Shameless self-promotion. I love it. Let's do it.
So, all right. Well, tell me a little bit about it. All right. So why did you start this YouTube channel?
Well, I actually started my account many years ago. So filmmaking has always been like one of those things I've just been like, gosh, I like making things. I'm a creative person, whether it's code or just stuff. And making something that people enjoy, it has a nice feedback loop. So I also play musical instruments, used to play in some bands. Now I'm mostly just hang them on the wall. But it's the same sort of thing. I like performing. I like entertaining. I like making people smile. So a lot of what you see on there is, instead of calling it education, I call it edutainment, because what I'm trying to do in a lot of these things is inform the viewer, but I don't want to just be very dry. I mean, I include a lot of pop culture references in my things. I try to break things down very easily for everyone. Sometimes it's just a overview. The reason I do a lot of these things is because I have the want to, and hopefully a little bit of movie magic skill to bring it to life. And, the older I get, the more I kind of think about, what should I do with the next 30 years of my career here? And, so, you never know until you try, you might be the next big thing. You might just be one of lost in the big sea, which is current status. So yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy it. I guess I can simplify.
So, all right. So what kind of viewership goals? So like, first of all, Kevin is super prolific when it comes to these videos. How many videos would you say you've published in the past, let's call it 3 months?
Good question. I want to say in the neighborhood of 30-ish.
Yeah. So like 10 a month.
Yeah, that's probably pretty safe.
And they're varying length, right?
Yeah. So my strategy is 20 minutes or less for something like totally deep and like requires lots of explanation. And then the other end of the spectrum is 2 minutes or less, which is for the short attention span society that we live in. Looking at analytics, you could definitely see people drop off. I mean, and I don't take offense to anyone who doesn't watch a video end to end, because a lot of times I'll just get distracted when I'm watching somebody else's video, and totally get it. So it's for all types. Some videos like today, I wanted to be quick to publish the Umbraco 7.8 beta because, hey, not everyone has time to download that thing and check it out, but they may have a few minutes to look at all this stuff. And Niels Hartvig demoed that at the keynote for UK Fest, and again, not everyone got a chance to go there. So, and then I guess thirdly, I'm actually going to beta test it while I'm recording the video. So it was kind of I wanted to get it out there. So those are representatives, or that is a representative of a video I like to make. Some of the deeper stuff is like dependency injection in C#, and I'm trying to just be real. We'll give real talk, when I'm doing it, and not everything fits. We can talk software patterns later, but yeah, there.
So, all right. So whoa, are you getting that echo? Oh, I'm hearing an echo. That's weird. Well, anyway, to talk about, I might not be able to deal with this echo. Why is it doing that? That is not supposed to. All right, it seems to be gone now. All right, good. All right, so at 1540, I need to take a look at that. So you talked about this video that you just did for the 7.8 beta today, and you said you pretty much, demoed the software while you were recording it. Is that typically your, plan of attack, or do you like to be a little bit more comfortable and rehearsed?
So I like to be more comfortable and rehearse. So today was kind of an experiment to go, you know what? I'm going to experience this in real time. So if I screw up something, like I broke it accidentally today, it was, we're just going to leave it in there, because normally I script things out. I just have basically a bullet point list of things I want to cover, and I try to cover all the bullet points, and I will go through, and if it's a coding exercise, I'll code it up, make sure it works, and then I'll kind of copy and paste it out of Visual Studio. Then I'll try to do it again live, knowing that it'll work. And if I mess something up, I'm like, oh, no problem. I know this will eventually work. So I like to be more structured and scripted, to be honest.
So, all right, then I'm going to challenge you again, because we did a video when we were in London, or in the UK, because we weren't actually in London. And that seemed to be completely spontaneous and completely collaborative. I mean, or did I just see that wrong? Like, you didn't have an idea to shoot a comical yet, I don't know, it seemed pretty structured. So how did that all come about?
Well, I'm trying to figure out who to give proper credit to. So the way I remember it is Pete said something to me like, hey, let's record one of those videos. And I'm like, okay. The next thing I know, Steve has the branding irons, and I'm like, okay. Then somebody says, let's use these. I'm like, okay, let's brand some meat. So, okay, brand some meat. And then as the night progresses, we kind of, all of us fleshed out hey, we brand Bob and all these different things. And hey, Pete, why don't you kind of play this, kind of interesting guy with a twist at the end that says, have a little gesture, and we'll seize Bob and, make it happen. So it did come together very spontaneous and very organically, and everybody deserves a good amount of credit for that. I had to do a little bit of, hey, Pete, give me some good BS. Steve, here, just wait a second, because it took us 4 takes, if I recall correctly. But everyone pulled together, and hey, Bob, scream, sell it. So I used to love wrestling back in the day, professional wrestling. So, when I say sell it, you know what I mean, right? So that was my job, right? Just trying to get everyone's performance, and the technical details on the camera. That's what I was sweating. The performances were all you guys. And I was really impressed. I think you had even said, get a bunch of creative people together and this kind of stuff happens. So yeah.
Right. It was totally spontaneous and totally fun. So, all right. So you have the videos where you're out in front of the camera, where you do, you're coding at the front lines, but you don't call it that anymore. So you've got that where you're in front of the camera, and then you had this experience in Huddersfield where you're behind the camera. So, like, which do you like better?
I'm the like to be behind the camera kind of guy, because being in front of the camera requires you to overcome those usual trepidations of, oh, what do people think, and I'm not as good as the next guy or the previous one, and so there's a bit of that. So I overcome that as best I can. So it's way more comforting to be behind the camera. That's just me. So I'm actively trying to be in front of the camera. So the other way I'm behind the camera is when I do screencasts, where you don't really see me, but you hear me. So that's a comfort thing for me. And when I'm in front of the camera, it is I'm definitely working on trying to hide the fact that this is freaking scary. So along those lines, I have plans, and my kids are helping me to create a new set here at the house where I'll be in front of the camera more. But I'm building a set, so that's going to take a little bit of effort.
You guys are actually building it. It's not going to be digital.
So, I've gone back and forth with, should I do green screen? We did some screen testing. I'm a firm believer, and George Lucas may disagree, but green screen to me is if you have to, if you can avoid a green screen, that's what I want to do, because it's better to get it in the camera, like very real, very tangible, very organic. And if it's digital, it just doesn't come off as well. So I did some screen testing, and I can do the green screen, but I would rather do a real set where I can just be there. And it also gives me a chance to show off some of my pop culture references. I love pop culture references. So that's part of what is in store, I guess.
So are you going to document the construction of the set and make that part of the video series, or?
That would be clever and awesome. I just don't know if if I have the time. So time is very, very difficult to come by these days.
Well, let's talk about the time aspect too, because I feel like the release of the Huddersfield video, Off-Road Code Garden video, and then your 7.8 beta review today, do you feel like you've got a bump from those two being so close together? Because the 7.8 thing did really well today, I thought.
It did do well. So there's, just like anything else, when you produce content, if it's relevant in a time context, like, hey, the beta got released. Hey, look at that. There's already a video. That's definitely helpful. So yes, in that respect. So if you wait a week or two, somebody's A, going to beat you to the punch, or B, people aren't going to care as much. Maybe it gets released or something. So timing is very important.
Do you think if you came up with another like video concept over the next couple days, even if it was something small, do you think it would get some momentum from those other two though? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to.
Maybe, but I believe in also brand fatigue. So too much of Kevin all day long is a bit tiring on people. So part of me wants to space these out to once a week, but sometimes I just get the feeling to say, you know what, I got an idea and I need to get it out of my head, and just putting it on paper isn't good enough. So I'm weird like that.
So have you kind of abandoned the blogging and just going to do the videos instead? Is that like the way you're going?
So there's a lot of bloggers out there. And there's a lot of videographers out there. However, there's a lot more bloggers than there are videographers. So I find that not everyone can make good quality videos. And since I feel like I'm doing all right, that's where I'm comfortable. So yes, I would say blogging for me is less important than vlogging. Now, I did learn an important thing in the tubes of London. There ain't no way that any of that area is going to be, good for a video. So I realized that I'm kind of changing audiences. Somebody can't casually watch a video on a subway as opposed to casually maybe scroll through a blog that's already downloaded. So it's different. So there's very few people in the Umbraco space doing videos. So and of course, I don't want to limit it to just Umbraco. I'm going to try to expand from that too. But yeah, I like doing videos. Sorry, it was a long answer.
No, that's perfectly fine. All right. So here's a technical question about the videos, and probably maybe a technical question about YouTube. At the ends of your videos, and I apologize because I don't recall seeing this or not, but do you have the ability to like put your own related videos at the end or cue like what's going to happen next? Or is that not a feature that YouTube offers?
Yes, you can. You can put some digital links in. They're called cards. There's 3 or 4 options you can do, but I'm totally lazy and I don't do it. What I take advantage of is playlists. So usually if you start watching a video in a playlist, the next video will come from my playlist as well. There's some algorithm with YouTube that may or may not make that statement true. But it's a lot of work to be able to try to retain your audience in your own bubble. And I'm still learning the ropes of YouTube.
So, okay, but you could put those at the end, but you're just not doing that right now.
You can. Yes. Yeah. Totally being lazy about some of that because it's a bit of an effort to take care of all that.
All right. That's cool. Last YouTube question, I think. So that video that you released today with the 7.8 beta, did you also put that on LinkedIn?
I did not. See, you're going to help me out there.
We talked about that. We talked about that just last week.
I'm going to spam LinkedIn. You're right. No, because that would be great for LinkedIn because not every video. I mean, I'm not going to drop in my dependency injection C# into LinkedIn because it's the crowd's not right because there's really no business element to that. So, but a company may be considering Umbraco or has Umbraco may be interested in a quick brief on the beta. So that is definitely something we will do in the morning for sure.
All right. So something else that I've been trying to work on, because I'm also trying to build an audience with this podcast thing, and we are 30 minutes into this, and I should have asked you when we started talking about the YouTube channel, how do people find you on YouTube?
Well, if I look through the analytics, and if those are true, organic Google search is actually leading. So for some reason, people search and click on my video. Next would be Twitter. But Twitter is a bit of an echo chamber. It's usually your friends and people you know, and what I want is people I don't know to watch my videos, because that's when you're truly transcending like your local group in terms of stellar or solar system type Milky Way terminology. And then after that, it's GitHub, shockingly. And you may think, well, why GitHub? It's because I cross-promote myself by going to my Learn Umbraco 7 book and drop in hey, if you don't want to read all this junk here, you can just watch this video and I'll explain it all to you. So those are my top 3 sources.
Okay, I'm going to rephrase the question for the hundreds of listeners that we have possibly listening to this podcast. How would they go about finding you on YouTube?
Okay. I'll take this as a plug. So what you want to do is go to youtube.com/Kevin Giszewski 42. Now I realize my name isn't very easily spelt. So the easiest way is go on Twitter, follow me there, and go into my profile and click the link, because my link no longer takes you to my blog. It takes you to my YouTube channel.
We're going to have to work on renaming that YouTube channel.
It doesn't sell very well.
It doesn't spell very well. So,
right.
All right. So, follow Kevin, find Kevin on YouTube. I think that is GISZEWSKI 40 what? 42.
So 42 is my number. So it's a very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. The answer to everything is 42.
Oh, so it's not like your high school football number or anything like that?
If I had high school football talent, I may have considered that, but I had none.
See, I'm learning how to do this podcast thing because in my show notes, I have what was Kevin like in high school? And I just totally threw that fishhook in there about the number of 42 in high school. So what was Kevin like in high school?
Oh, wow. Very shy, very quiet, very nerdy, very non-girl friendly or popular, I guess is the way. My senior year of high school, I joined a rock and roll band, taught myself how to play bass guitar, and it was very uneventful in high school.
So if there was a most likely to blank in high school awarded to Kevin, what would that award had been?
Probably be successful, because I was editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper my junior year. And the reason I think I became the editor-in-chief as a junior, rather than it's normally a senior position. My sophomore year, I was the only one who could run a computer. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And so I think through all that, I think a lot of people looked at me and going, oh, well, that dude's going places. And all it really did was fuel my midlife crises now here in my 30s. So.
All right. So there's a little bit of gap to fill in between high school and your 30s. So, all right. So obviously you had the computer thing working for you even in high school.
Yes.
Where did that go after high school? So you graduate, pomp and circumstance, get your diploma, and then what happens?
Then I decided to take 5 years to get a 2-year associate degree in computer science from Purdue University, and then decided to join the United States Army, where they asked for volunteers to be a paratrooper. I raised my hand because you got paid an extra $150 a month. 6 years later, I got my actual first paid programming job. So when I got out of the military, that's when I actually started getting paid. And that was in 2010. So I've only been paid professional, I guess. I guess I'm getting old now. It's 2017. So there you go. There's a little bit of gap filler for you.
So, all right. But so you're actually employed in the field that you are degreed in.
Finally, right?
Well, yeah, and it's also, I think, pretty rare these days. Well, I think it's pretty rare for our age group, probably. Sorry that I'm lumping you in with my age group, but we're not that far apart.
Yeah, so it is interesting. So yeah, I have an actual computer science degree, and so because the military has all these things called benefits, I only had an associate's in 2010, and I decided to use my GI Bill to finish my bachelor's, and Uncle Sam decided to write the check for it, and I got a degree in software, and I think it's just called software. It's not a very sexy term, from Western Governors University, which is an online school based out of Salt Lake City, Utah.
So how did you end up in the .NET MVC C# world?
You know, that's crazy because I was LampStack from 2010 to 2012. I taught myself PHP leading up to me getting out of the military, and then I decided, you know what, PHP is cool and all, but I feel like I was missing out because it was it's PHP. You don't hit compile. It's just in time compilation. It's very scripty. It just didn't feel like a real computer language. So I wanted to try .NET. And at the time, I was going back to school at Western Governors. .NET was the language of choice for the few courses I was taking on computer science. And I decided, you know what, let me see if anyone will take me on at a job to learn .NET on the job, so to speak. And sure enough, I found a taker, and sure enough, they used Umbraco. And that's where I learned Umbraco starting in 2012. And the the wild ride is still going.
So that was that company, the first company in Fort Wayne, right?
Yeah, Franklin Electric in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
All right. And so when you and I first met, it was at Code Garden, right?
Yeah, but let's make sure everyone knows that you scared the hell out of me because I'm like, I'm going to Code Garden. I'm so excited. And then you're like on Twitter, like I have like 2 followers on Twitter at this point, and you like message me, where are you staying? I'm like, who's this weirdo? He wants to know where I'm staying and, all this stuff. So, but yes, Code Garden. 2013 was the actual first year of Code Garden, which would have been the following year after starting Franklin.
Wow, so that's weird. I wonder how many other people have taken my aggressive friendliness as just aggressiveness. I'll have to I'll have to make sure to ask that one more often on the podcast.
Yeah. So I don't know if people are very forthcoming with these things, but yeah, I'm just like, man, who's this weird guy's name? Boot Num Lock. Who the hell is this guy? So fortunately, it all worked out. You're definitely no weirdo.
Well, I'm probably definitely a weirdo, just not the scary kind.
You're friendly. You even wore the sweatshirt to England. So
yeah, I got to get the pocket fixed. I ripped it while I was there. Not happy about that. So we've spent most of definitely. You and I have spent most of our time together outside of the continental U.S.
Yeah, not weird. You live 3 hours from me, yet I think we spent more FaceTime in England and Denmark.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, even if you add in a couple of the U.S. conferences, I still think we've clocked
that too. Yeah,
I think we've clocked more minutes outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. So
I think you're right.
So where are some of the other places? Have you been to other places outside than those 2 conferences? Full disclosure, I haven't. Like, not outside the U.S.
Just in general, like what countries have I visited, or maybe? Yeah. So the military took me to all kinds of strange and wonderful places in the Middle East, Iraq, Qatar, and then Germany, Spain. Gosh, I spent some time in there, but I think since I started doing .NET and Umbraco, I think I've spent more time in Europe post-military than I did in military, because most of my military time was either in North Carolina, Fort Bragg, or Doha, Qatar, or Baghdad, Iraq. So a couple of those places I care not to revisit, but yeah.
So what's your favorite out of all the places you've been so far?
Because it's fresh in my mind right now, I don't know, I'm leaning towards England was pretty darn cool.
So our whole experience in England, or like, does London shine brighter than Copenhagen does at this point? Or
oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble.
we're not trying to do an East Coast West Coast kind of gang war thing. I'm just curious.
Well, I tell you, the first time I went to Denmark, I was like, gosh, this is land of Lego, because I'm a huge Lego, man-child collector type. So Denmark, for me as a kid, I always wanted to go to Legoland in I think it's in Aarhus, or however you say it. But gosh, right now I'm leaning London is probably more exciting. We still have some museums that we missed out on that I want to go back to, and Huddersfield was really cool. For complete opposite reasons, London is cool. I did go to the retreat in Denmark. I don't know where Niels took us to, but that was amazing. Very similar experience. I mean, they're not like night and day differences. Obviously Americans, we have roots all over Europe, so I don't know. You're making me pick, man. It's like picking your favorite kid.
You don't have to pick. You can take the political, like, they're both amazing. But since I've been to Copenhagen so many times, I mean, I always come home and tell people it's like one of my favorite places on the planet. But I was super impressed with London as well. And I think for me, my impressed, with London was probably more like the direct connection to our history as well. So, having, colonies and all that connection to, the UK history as well, the British history. I think that gives it a little star of connection that, Copenhagen doesn't really have for me. But Copenhagen's a beautiful city and has some really old, crazy, architecture plus crazy new architecture, just like London in that regard. But
yeah, I guess you're right, because we typically have an English literature class or English history type oriented class, and you don't get too much Danish history in the classroom in America.
And I didn't get the same, like in Copenhagen, I always get, in Denmark in general, get that super like hyper friendly people feel. And I didn't necessarily get that in London, because there's just a lot of hustle and bustle. The whole train situation there versus the train situation in Copenhagen. I never once felt uncomfortably crushed against other people in a train in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
We had a fantastic tube ride for anybody that's listening out there, where, we got in and it was pretty crowded, and the next stop, it got more crowded and more squished. And
there's a phrase in the military, there's always room for one more.
I don't think there was room for one more in that train by the time that we finally got off of it. All right. So talked about traveling a little bit. Oh, I know. So where are some places that you still want to make it to? Like what's kind of your travel bucket list?
My travel bucket list, definitely Poland. I very nearly went this year. So there's a very good chance I'll go next year. No promises. And then Australia is definitely on my bucket list. And then I haven't been to the Far East, so I'd love to go to Japan, maybe China, possibly South Korea. There's really... as far as Europe goes, Poland's my top. I've been pretty much everywhere else I want to go. France, I would like to go to the Louvre in Normandy for historical significance. And I think I can knock out all of these in the next, I don't know, before, on the bucket list. So I think it's all doable. So if I had to prioritize, probably Poland first, and then maybe Australia, which the flight was already making me tired just thinking about it.
I think we got to rest a little before we think about the next trips after that one. So, were you jet lagged at all after that trip?
I think I'm still jet lagged. I'm rough.
I feel pretty good. I think I came home with a little bit of a cold, but I'm fighting it. But yeah, jet lag wasn't so bad. I slept for a long time on the flights coming home and then went to bed really early, whatever night that was, Wednesday night. So working on that. Well, that's a pretty impressive list with some travel challenges at home.
Yeah, it's not easy to leave the wife with a bunch of kids. I'm trying to convince the wife to update the passport so we can travel together. My wife doesn't get the benefit very often from traveling, so hopefully I can convince her to come to some of these exotic places.
Very cool. All right, so one thing we haven't talked about so much is jobs. We've kind of covered your education and how you got your first job, paid developer. What was like your craziest job that you've ever had? It doesn't even have to be in your field. Like, could be food service, could be anything. What was that craziest job?
Oh, the craziest job. Well, food service is so my first job was flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, and crazy only because it was my first job ever. Didn't realize how much like grease I would smell like for days on end. How many times I would burn my fingers on the grills. And then I drew the short straw when a kid went down the fun play slide with a overly full dirty diaper, if you catch my drift.
Wow. So you worked at a McDonald's with a play place.
Yes, and he definitely left a trail down the slide.
And you had to clean it?
My boss, this was like 90-degree Indiana summer heat. She's like, here's a mop. I need you to go take care of this. And I'm like,
dude, I'm going to gag.
16-year-old kid. I'm like, well, they're the boss. Get out here and get it done. And I get in the tight quarters of this slide, which I'm clearly way too large to fit into this. I see the target in front of me and I just lose it. I just start gagging so bad. I'm trying to like push the mop close. I lose control of the mop. It like goes down the slide and I get out of the slide. I say, nope, not doing it. And then, and it takes a lot of courage at 16 years old, first job, to say, you know what, boss? I just begged you for this job, and now I'm telling you to basically go pound sand. And that was...
So did you quit?
I did not quit. I just said, you're going to have to find somebody else or I'll find a new job. So...
And they found somebody else?
They found somebody else.
Oh, wow. So how long did you do the McDonald's gig?
6 months at $4.25, which was minimum wage in 1995, I want to say.
Wow, that wasn't scarring at all. You remembered all those details without even me prepping you.
And then I quit because Pizza Hut offered me $4.35 an hour at the parking lot next to it. And I decided apparently it's better to smell like pizza all day rather than grease, which is really, it's the same greasy smell. So
16-year-old Kevin making big moves.
That's right. I got a big raise. I put in my notice. Yes.
So then how long were you at the Pizza Hut or whatever it was?
Probably only another 6 months before I took a bank teller job. And I only lasted, I was the night teller, which you learn like all the different codes for if you're being robbed or distress or, all these things. And it's the first time in my life I saw $1 million, and I can cash in the vaults, So I was probably 17 at the time. And I didn't last long at that either because you had to dress up, and I found out about myself that I don't like to dress up. I really don't.
That would be one of the things I love about you.
And so I took a job at a video game store as a manager. So I did video games, and that's where,
dude, that's like the holy grail teenage job.
it was. And it was, at this point, I'm into college now. I was like 18, I think. And it was a great job because everyone's like, you probably played video games all day. They kind of, do it in jest. I'm like, well, kind of. Yeah, actually, we did. Because part of our job, we did new and used games. And part of your job is to basically demo games for people. Hey, we got this new game. Hey, you want to try this game? Hey, I have to know everything about freaking Super Mario World on Super Nintendo and how it's different from Super Mario 64 and Nintendo 64. Yeah, I'm showing my age here. But that was my job. And, that was awesome. I love that job.
How long did you have that one?
Probably 2 years. I mean,
how much money did you give back to the store on a regular basis?
None, because we had a policy where you wanted to try something or whatever, just take it home, and when you don't, then bring it back.
So you guys were basically what is that Fly? What is that service now where you can get GameFly? You were basically GameFly before GameFly existed.
Yes, we were. So in Fort Wayne, we had 3 locations, and it was a video game trading operation. So the idea was you bring me your old games, trade for other games, and if you really want to, you can sell them to me and you can put them towards the new games. We were kind of a pawn shop of video games.
Nice. So what was after that?
Gosh, you're testing me now. Circuit City. Remember Circuit City?
Oh.
So that was full-time commission. So basically, sell, get paid. So I got yeah. So I sold computers, and this was like at the height of like Napster and stuff. It was like 1999 into 2000, and we just crossed like the 1 gigahertz computer or processing speed. The iMac got reissued. I think it's the iMac, yeah, with the colors. So it was like you get the teal blue one or the pink one. So that was the era that I was selling computers. I did pretty damn good, and that's where I got a lot of my sales chops. So I wouldn't tell you that I'm a salesperson now, but I can definitely tell you the ABCs of sales, which is always be closing. I mean, they trained us up pretty darn good. Of course, Circuit City's out of business now,
but you guys did get sales training though. That's pretty great.
Hell yeah, we did.
So what are some of the ABCs? The super condensed version.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, and this works in agency life, so this totally applies, you got to qualify your customer. Figure out what they want. Just don't sell them a canned solution, because there's a good chance that your canned solution doesn't fit. So don't oversell them, and then don't undersell them. You may ask some qualifying questions and find out they want your high-end PC instead of the low-end one. Or you may try to push the one computer on them because it pays you the most, rather than really get them into the sale or into the thing that they need, which actually may compromise trust and kind of screw you on future sales. So the only aspect of commission sales that I absolutely detested was the extended warranty pressure that I had to hit numbers, because I don't believe in that stuff. I really didn't. I get paid a lot if I sell it to you, but the problem is I didn't believe in it. And that's another thing you learn about what you do. If you don't believe in what you're doing, you won't last long, because you just won't. You have to believe in what you're doing. So that's a very important takeaway I got from all that.
Dude, that was great. Did you guys learn about handling objections in your sales training, or was it mostly about...
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So have you ever seen the movie Boiler Room with Ben Affleck and Giovanni Ribisi? Basically, it's like a stock thing. So yes. So for every rejection, you should have a rebuttal. And after you do it long enough, you get my wife doesn't want it. Well, and you insert a can statement here because you've been down this road. Another thing is you use visuals. So I created my own visuals, and it's just like when you're in the finance office with a car salesman, they're trying to sell you the warranty. What they do is they use a pen and they circle things and they put things and they cross things out and they make it seem like, this is like, engaging experience. And absolutely, I got all that training. And again, it comes down to, if you don't believe what you're selling, they won't believe you to buy it. And a lot of times I just tell the people, I say, look, you don't want this. And that's definitely not what my sales manager wanted me to say. In fact, usually when I sold the warranty, it was because I had to sell it to him and the customer immediately said yes. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, you want it. All right. Let me add it here. Because I was the type, I wasn't going to talk you into it.
Right.
I would ask you, and I'm supposed to, and if you want it, I'm going to let you buy it, but I ain't going to hard sell you on it.
Wow, so you've done a lot. I never would have guessed that.
That's one of my flaws. I've had a lot of jobs over the years, a lot of experience across the board, really.
Well, so given all that experience, and we've talked about this last week as well, so what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, I'm 39, and the number of midlife crises come more frequently these days. If I were able to pivot careers right now, a brewery would be awesome. A toy store, like a high-end, like Melissa and Doug, Lego, Playmobil, like those fancy Euro toy stores. Yeah, one of those would be kind of cool. Just to run one because I'm a man child. What else? Some sort of amazing indie film career, even if it's YouTube based. Oh gosh, I've probably forgotten some of the other things I'd like to do. I love sports, but I don't know if I really have a niche for sports. I think I'm more on the consuming side of American sports. So it's hard to say outside of that. So that's kind of what I want to do when I grow up.
I heard somebody say the other day, I can't remember, that they believe that there's seriously a market for like a YouTube type thing just for people to talk about sports. Like that there's still a niche for that.
Possibly, but I tell you, let me pivot real quick. I tell you where I think there is a market. It's for people who work at home who get lonely and need that federation of other lonely at-home workers, some sort of social network to knit all those people together. So that would also be one of those sorts of things that kind of piques my interest. The only problem with that is that's kind of more the same of what I'm doing now, which sounds very technology. I almost want to get out of technology one day, but I don't know when that day is.
Well, what if, okay, so I think you always think of projects like that. Like if you conceive of that project, like that social network that you feel like you'd feel compelled to build it. What if you just conceived it and then jobbed it out for the build?
I think you also assume I would be financing said project, and I don't think I could. So I'm for the record, I'm an engineer. Business, I've had some managerial experience. I've had sales experience. None of those give me the satisfaction I get like engineering does. So being able to build something and be the guy that sits back and goes, yeah, I built that. Yeah, your company is, kicking butt because we built that. So I don't know if I could hand the keys over to somebody like that terribly easy.
Well, I've got my other buddy. I apparently know plenty of Kevins, but my other buddy, Kevin, doesn't know a lick about how software is made, but he's launched like 3 software companies. It's just crazy. And that's just what made me think of that when you said, because I think it is that social network's a great idea. I just think it'd be more fun to have somebody else build it. But
yeah, it would be, trust me, I like video games. I've tried probably 5 times in my life to make video games to different degrees of success. And at the end of the day, sometimes I go, you know what? I just like playing games rather than trying to build the darn things. So I understand, where the mentality is on. Sometimes you just want to use it and be a consumer rather than be the maintainer, engineer, producer. So I definitely see that. I would also label myself a Steve Wozniak and not a Steve Jobs in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah.
I don't know. You're sounding more and more visionary to me all the time. So maybe just got to grow into that part.
Maybe. I mean, Steve Jobs was an amazing person. I just don't have the asshole gene, or I don't know if you can bleep that, that is required of such a career or such a visionary. I'm more of I like to think I'm more of a humble person, yeah, so maybe that's a thing.
I don't think I have to bleep that. I think that's actually still like PG-13 these days. So,
all right, sweet. You're right. 1980s would totally have not bleeped that in a PG-13.
Exactly, and I'm guaranteed today's day they're not going to bleep it either. All right, so one of the last things that I ask people on the podcast is, who do you think would be a good person for me to interview next? Could be somebody that you and I know together, or could be someone that you know that you would introduce me to.
Oh my gosh. Do you have Neil deGrasse Tyson's phone number? Let's start with that.
I do not. You would have to have it because I don't know him.
Okay. All right. Because if you get that interview, I want to be right there with my popcorn, listening live. So
I think we would fly to that one. If someone could wire that up, I think you and I would fly to that one.
Gosh, this is totally on the spot, Bob. Didn't didn't prepare myself here. I know a lot of people that are super interesting. So does it have to fit the mold of you have to know them? Let's go with that.
Well, that's usually where I go first. If it's somebody you and I know together.
Yes.
If not, then I'd have to rely on you to make the introduction.
Well, maybe this is too easy, but having just spent a week with Pete Duncanson, I would nominate Pete.
All right, so no one else has nominated him yet, so good on you. I think that's a great call. So yeah, he's definitely on my radar for sure.
Sweet.
Yes. And then the last question I have for you, sorry, I lied about the last question, but I did remember one other question. Any other cool video projects coming up that you can tell us about, or is everything on the hush hush right now?
If everything were on the hush hush, that would indicate I have some sort of, intellectual property I'm trying to protect, which I don't. So I've got a few things. I've got, and what I do is I create basically a Notepad++ of named different things with different bullet points. So I've got one labeled microservices, which I have a lot of thoughts on microservices, good and bad and ugly. Unit testing, I started a unit testing part 1 type thing. I wanted to kind of expand on that. And then Git as a source control. I love Git, and it's, I think, well underused in the computer science world. And there's some people who are really good at it, but there's a lot of people who just do the bare minimum and aren't necessarily understanding how powerful of a tool. So there's that. And then I want to try to branch out into more, the life and times of a coder. What is the coding life like? The trouble there, as I'm having trouble kind of fleshing out, because a Silicon Valley developer they work 25 hours a day, crushing it, air quotes, and that's a different lifestyle that I lead. I live in the middle of nowhere, a remote worker, doing things at my employer, Tonic. They take really good care of me as far as a work-life balance in general. So I'm not even sure if it's interesting. Maybe I might be too boring along those lines. So that's kind of what's in the thoughts right now of future stuff.
Well, you're definitely not boring. That's why you're on the My Friends Are Amazing podcast, because you're amazing. And I think on that, unless you have a parting thought, I think we can probably, we're an hour in. That went really fast. So I think we could say goodnight.
All right. But no, that's it. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Well, this is just crazy. I can't tell you how much fun it's been doing these so far, and I think it's just going to keep getting better. With practice, I'm going to be able to ask better questions. But Kevin and I had a great time again tonight, and I think we covered a pretty wide gamut. His life as a dad, a coder, served in the militaries, traveled a little bit, and has a long list of traveling he wants to do. So just a big thanks to Kevin for being on the show again. And hey, be sure to check out his YouTube channel at youtube.com. And it's Kevin, Giszewski 42. So check him out on YouTube. And please, if you've liked the podcast so far and looking forward to getting updated on new episodes, click subscribe. Visit us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, tons of different podcast networks, or you can visit the website at baty-bar.com, baty-bar.com. And to close things out tonight, special thanks to our sponsor, socialimpostor.com. socialimpostor.com, socialimpostor.com. If you've got social media sites and you're worried about people impersonating you or your brand, go check out socialimpostor.com. Thanks, and until next week, talk to you soon.